Elevate your smartphone with the Digital Trends app bundle. 17 premium apps in one plan. From productivity to entertainment, it's all here. Start your free trial today by clicking the link in the description. On today's episode of You Asked, Panasonic W95A or TCL QM8K, how to adjust your settings for better motion clarity, and should you go with the LG C5 or Samsung S90F as your next upgrade? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is You Asked, the show where we answer your tech questions. If you've got something you want to know, send your question to youasked@digitaltrends.com. And don't forget to tune into the show to see if your question has been selected. Also, if you can hear my voice, bear with me, the roster is a bit thin. The first question comes from Sean2481, who says, I just purchased the TCL QM8K and I've been noticing motion blur when watching shows. For example, when streaming on Apple TV through an Apple TV 4K box connected via HDMI 1, I see noticeable blur during fast motion, like a golf swing. The video is displayed in Dolby Vision. Is this expected behavior for the QM8K, or are there settings I should adjust to reduce motion blur? Hey Sean, seems like you kinda already know a little bit of your own answer there. No, that's not expected behavior on the TCL QM8K, and yes, adjusting the settings will make a big difference for you. In fact, we have a whole video about some of the recommended settings to change on TCL TVs that we'll link in the description. But to answer your question about motion clarity here, we have the QM6K, and I'm assuming the menus are pretty close, if not the same, on the QM8K. We're gonna open the settings, then go to picture settings, and then down to motion. You can have the motion clarity turned off altogether if you like, or you can use low, medium, or high presets, or you can set it to custom and use a pair of sliders to set your preferences for blur reduction and judder reduction. I'd say it's worth experimenting with to see what you like best for different types of content. You may find that you prefer movies and shows that are often filmed at 24 frames per second to look one way, and higher frame rate content like live programming, reality TV, and sports to look another. And again, to Sean and everyone else out there, it's always worth diving into your settings when you pick up a new TV, especially when it's one of the best on the market like the QM8K. We've got videos on our channel for every brand, and in general, there's just a ton of information out there for lots of different models that covers everything from the better picture modes to getting the most out of the TV when viewing HDR content and more. In some cases, like on Panasonic TVs that run Amazon Fire TV, you can even turn off the automatic videos that play ads, and that is a huge win. TVs are just very customizable these days, so even if it's really good straight out of the box, just know it could be better if you take a few minutes to make just a few changes. Margot has the next question and says, after 7 years, I'm upgrading my old Samsung LED TVs with either OLED or QLED. I'm looking to buy a 65-inch TV for my living room that does get a decent amount of natural light and will be the primary TV watching spot in the apartment. For the bedroom, I'm considering either a 42 or 48-inch TV. The room gets less natural light. Picture quality, brightness, and cinematic viewing are crucial to me. Audio is not as important since I'll have a Sonos system in the living room and Amazon Fire soundbar in the bedroom. The TVs I'm considering are the LG C4, LG C5, or Samsung S90F. Which would you recommend and why? Thanks for the question, Margot, and congrats on the upgrade. To me, the Samsung S90F makes the most sense for you. To start, you're coming from Samsung TVs that you already know well. So while there are likely some differences between the menus and features, you will already be familiar with the brand, which has its benefits. But picture quality is where I think the S90F will really benefit you, especially on the 65-inch model. At that size, as well as 55 inches and 77 inches, Samsung gives the S90F a QD-OLED panel, which is going to be considerably more colorful than LG's WRGB OLED panel in the C5. And since the 65-inch TV we're talking about is in the primary viewing spot, seems like a no-brainer to go for the option that's going to be the best to look at. Even in a room that gets some natural light, you should be fine with how the S90F handles reflections as well. In general, I just think it's one of the best buys for an OLED TV. And to be honest, I'd go with the smaller size of the S90F in the bedroom as well, since it does come in both the 42 and 48 inch sizes. One of the benefits, I think those remotes could be interchangeable because if you're like me, it's hard to keep track of those tiny black Samsung remotes all the time. I'm constantly losing mine at home just because it is so small. Anyway, the only thing that would change my mind on this answer would be if, big if you can still find the LG C4 and it's on a really, really good discount, that might be worth it to save the money. But still, since you're prioritizing picture quality, QD-OLED is the way to go with Samsung. Up next, Lopen07030 asks, 75-inch Panasonic W95A Mini LED or TCL QM8? Good question here. Not sure if I've compared these two, but it's relevant because that W95A remains on a great sale if you can find it. I think I've seen it around $600 recently. It's actually been a little while since I've put eyes on that Panasonic TV, but what stood out to me was brightness. Quick note, as we show some B-roll on these models though, in general, when we film TVs, we're exposing for the TV so you can accurately see the picture. The thing is, unless we put them side by side, it is hard to tell which model is actually brighter. So while we never compared these two directly next to each other, again, what I can recall being impressed by is the HDR performance on the Panasonic W95A. We played a good bit of content on it side by side with the Bravia 7 from Sony, in fact. In our review, the TCL QM6K was noteworthy for how accurate its colors were out of the box and how well it handled off-angle viewing, at least compared to previous models. But I think for HDR viewing and movies, and SDR viewing as well, the W95A is going to perform better. Still, that's not everything. The other things to be aware of would be the operating system. If you have experience with or think you prefer Google TV, that's the operating system featured on the QM6K. But if you prefer or don't mind Amazon Fire TV, that's what you'll find on the W95A instead. Both TVs support HDR, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Vision. That's nice and not found in every TV. Both have a max native refresh rate of 144 Hz. Inputs are mostly the same with two HDMI 2.1 and two HDMI 2.0 ports, but the Panasonic has an ATSC 3.0 tuner versus 1.0 in the TCL model. That means for getting content over the air, you're going to receive a higher resolution picture on the Panasonic if one is available. 1.0 is limited to 1080p, 3.0 allows receiving 4K HDR and enhanced audio like Dolby Atmos, again, when that is available over the air. Really, the only thing that could be a deal breaker with the Panasonic comes with gaming features. Variable refresh rate and local dimming don't work simultaneously. And saying that, I'd love to know from any gamers out there that own the W95A in the comments how big of a deal this is to you. But if you're not a heavy gamer or can live without variable refresh rate, I don't think this is worth passing on the TV for. The fact that it's still available right now is a big win for consumers at that price, so I would go ahead and jump on it. That's it for this week's episode. As always, we really appreciate you for watching. It's still September, but the holidays are approaching, and that means the sales will soon be upon us. Get those questions in if you have any, and we'll see you in the next video.